Today I'm going to be kind of not reviewing any watches, just kind of talking about a topic that I think is important, and that is watch size in a way. And I'm going to talk about this point through two of my watches. One's the smallest watch in my collection, and one's the largest. And the largest I have is my Tudor Pelagos. Give you a little bit of a far away shots so you can kind of tell some perspective of how it looks on my wrist and whatnot. And the smallest, which I'll put on, or at least here, let me show it next to the Pelagos, my Tudor Prince. And let me put it on really quick to again just show a little perspective. The smallest watch in my collection. It is a 32 millimeter diameter, while the Pelagos is 42. So quite a bit of difference. A range of sizes that most people do not dabble with, I would say. And I'm kind of going to show you why I think it's okay. And, go into it. So, yeah, let's go. So this is what I kind of call David meets Goliath. And in this video, I kind of want to go over watch sizing and how it shouldn't be that big of a deal, And this Tudor on the right here is 32 millimeters. This Tudor on the right here, this is the left. The Tudor on the left here is 42 millimeters. They are very different. They serve different purposes. And I think that's important. So I think it'd be better shown if I just took a couple dimensions. So here with the Pelagos, if I take the approximate diameter, I get 42.3, and lug to lug, we're looking at 50 millimeters. And just for heck, looking at about 14.5 millimeters thick. By contrast, if I take this Tudor Prince, we're looking at a 32 millimeter case with a lug length, of about 39 millimeters and a thickness of just under 10. So this Tudor Prince is about 10 millimeters smaller in diameter, 12 millimeters shorter in length, and about 4 millimeters thinner. So very, very different dimensions. This has a 17 millimeter lug width as well, while this has a 22 millimeter lug width. Now I have a 6.5 inch wrist, and if I bring my wrist into frame, and I'm even wearing another small watch, my vintage Omega, which is about 33 and a half millimeters. But if I bring my wrist into frame, and I move my watch up, and I kind of just measure the approximate extremity of my wrist, somewhere around there, I get about 52 millimeters. So in a perfect world, if a watch fit perfectly, 52 millimeters would be my max for something to wear within the boundaries of my wrist. But I only have a 6.5 inch wrist round. I have fairly skinny built, and I think smaller watches look proportional. But I think it's also important to note that even though I'm wearing these small watches, like this Omega, small watch, like this Tudor, I think it's important to note that I'm completely comfortable still wearing a big watch like the Pelagos. Even with the Pelagos here, it's pushing the extremity of my wrist. It is fairly long on the lug to lug. It's fairly wide in diameter, but it doesn't overhang. I don't think it looks improportional. And another thing I feel is because this is a dive watch, it wears better than its dimensions would say. A 42 millimeter dive watch is really not a 42 millimeter watch per se, because when we think of like a 42 millimeter watch or a 38 millimeter watch, at least I think of a watch that's kind of mostly dial. And if you look at a dive watch, if I measure just the dial of this watch, I actually get about 32 millimeters. So So there's only 32 millimeters of dial showing here. With the bezel, of course, it adds to the visual effect of the watch, increasing the size basically into 42 millimeters. But I measure the dial of this Tudor here. I get 27.7 millimeters compared to its 32. So this is only about 5 millimeters smaller in case size and its diameter, while this Tudor is about 10 millimeters smaller in diameter than its width of the whole entire watch. But as I kind of said earlier, these two watches, they serve different purposes. This is a tool watch. It's 500 meters water resistance. It has to be a little thicker. It's kind of made to bang about and be a little bigger and just look a little more tool-esque. This is, for all intents and purposes, a dress watch. You wear it in dressy occasions. Dress watches are made to slide under a cuff. They're meant to not overhang on the wrist because, again, it wouldn't be able to go under the cuff if it did overhang on the wrist. It's made to look sleek, most of the time not stand out, because you want your whole ensemble to kind of do the talking rather than your watch to talk for you. And plenty of people wear dive watch with suits. It's considered, whatever, a fashion faux pas, but no, it doesn't really matter. But just the whole point of it is these watches are built for different tasks, and I think appreciating the differences between them and really not discounting it either is an important part of just really a watch collector's journey, I would say. If you discount any watch under 42 or 40 millimeters, then you're missing out on how sleek and subtle a watch looks on your wrist, how classy and understated it looks, how beautiful some of these more smaller watches are. These things like vintage Rolex Explorers or just vintage Rolex in general, a Tudor just like this, and they mainly came in 32, 34, and 35 millimeters. Even a lot of chronographs in the day, other than the Navitimer, were fairly small. I mean, they were 38, 36, some 34 millimeter chronographs. And even a chronograph, you think, you need more space to have the legibility, but no, that was the sizing of the day, and no one thought it was out of place. So I think in the end, wear what you like to wear. Stick to a sizing you think looks great on you, but I would say don't be scared to venture past your comfort zone. When I first wore this watch, I thought it was too small. I was used to wearing 38 millimeter watches, 40 millimeter watches, some 42s even. And going down to a 32 was a culture shock. But after a week or two of wearing this watch pretty much nonstop, when I put on a larger watch, it felt almost wrong. It felt bulky. It felt unrefined. But even then, I put on this watch. It is larger. It is bulkier. It is more tooly. But then I wear this watch and I'm like, I understand the reasoning behind it. It's super legible. It's built like a tank because it's meant to be used as a tank. But I think that's enough rambling for today. In the end, all watches are great. Find one that works for you. Thanks for watching.